So, in this coffee chat, we're going to talk about what's happening with the coffee belt right now. Because in a couple of years, a couple of decades, coffee will become very scarce of a resource, and we won't have as much coffee in the world as we have right now. So, there was this stat that I saw where it said rising temperatures will reduce the area suitable for growing coffee by up to 50% by 2050. So think of our production of coffee being cut in half by 2050. That's like 30 years from now. Like the price of coffee will for sure skyrocket, and a more focus on high quality coffee instead of just using coffee as a beverage that you're drinking 3, 4 times a day just to have that effect will kind of like skew the way we consume coffee down the road. And I think that that's a great thing because it means that coffee is turning more into a specialty thing, something that shouldn't be overly consumed. And just like anything in life, you don't want to have too much of a good thing because it'll become bad. Too much of a good thing is not good anymore. And I think that is true also with coffee. Like we are now binging on coffee and consuming it like no tomorrow in our society. And it's kind of terrifying how that will probably all come to an end very shortly. One thing that we are doing to combat this, though, is to research different plants and varietals and cultivars to combat the heat. So plants are amazing. Like you can breed them kind of like dogs and cats, but like really like hone in on a very specific plant by breeding different species together. And what happens is that some of these can be drought resistant, some of these can stand up to heat and be better for a hotter climate. But here's the thing, like even though we have the capabilities to create something like that, doesn't mean that those types of coffee will be as tasty as the ones that we are making right now, which can sustain and survive in a cooler climate. It is a solution, and through science, we'll be able to make and create coffee plants that will survive. But just all of that research and understanding and creation is a lot of money and funding, which will yet again increase the cost of coffee. So like the bottom line is that coffee is just too cheap right now. And thinking about like specialty coffee versus commercial coffee, I really think it's the commercial coffee, like all of the like Starbucks and like McDonald's and Tim Hortons and Dunkin' Donuts and like all of the pre-ground beans in the supermarkets that will take the hit the most, because they are the ones that require the vast amount of coffee beans in the world compared to small specialty farms that really just focus in on their own plot and are able to adapt quickly with their farm to counteract these measures of global warming. Like even though the recommended caffeine consumption is 400 milligrams or less, which is around 4 of these cups over here, I don't think that that should be the benchmark of how much coffee we drink a day. And in my personal opinion, I think 1 to 2 cups of coffee a day is like the sweet spot for most people. And if you start using it for its caffeine purposes, then why not just pop a caffeine pill instead? And maybe there is a shift that needs to be made where a cup of coffee is not linked so directly to the caffeine that it contains, and instead just appreciate it for the liquid that it is and all its glory. That's pretty much one of the things that I've been thinking about lately. What are your thoughts on global warming, the price of coffee, the coffee that we consume, how much we consume? Feel free to comment those below. And I always have these thoughts with coffee and any hobby that I deep dive into. It's always like the meta understanding of the hobby. And I love it. I love talking about these things, and hopefully this over here can be a nice outlet for me to share those thoughts and have a open discussion about these things that are happening in this field that we love, which is coffee. So I'll see you in the next coffee chat. Cheers. Tatora says bye too.